Hey there, this is Danielle from Polygon. I am joined by Matt Leone from Polygon as well.
Hello.
And we are here with Street Fighter V, brand new, playable.
Yes.
We just checked it out last week. Here we have Chun-Li and Ryu fighting in China, in one of the new stages they were showing off last week.
Well, China is the old stage, but there's a new stage coming. So we played 4 characters here. We have Ryu and Chun-Li here, and you'll see Nash and Bison soon. Here, I mean, these are the characters that they kind of announced when they first showed the game, so this might look kind of familiar. When you look closer at the footage, I don't know if you'll be able to see this so much in our player as much as you can in person, but the art style, it's kind of weird texture to it. It's kind of like you were describing it as like photocopied.
It almost looks, it does almost look a little photocopied. It very, you know, the sort of hyper stylized look that they've gone for in the series previously, but with this sort of new sheen to it, like this almost like glossy Vaseline sheen to it, which I think is kind of interesting.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like I don't know, if you look like a printer, like a DPI, like you zoom in, it's got like little circles on it. I don't think you notice it from a distance. From a distance, everyone assumes it looks kind of like Street Fighter 4, and I think it does. So it's kind of one of those things that you don't really notice unless it's in HD, so whether that's good or bad, I don't know. But it's certainly a little different kind of the more you zoom in, like when the camera zooms in like that. You notice it more,
you can see that a little bit better.
Okay, so one of the things we learned when we played it is kind of like the new mechanics. So there's a few things going on here. You'll see in the bottom corners, you'll see a V trigger and V. I guess it says V trigger.
Yeah, V trigger.
They called it a V gauge when we were talking about it. And then there's an EX gauge. So the one on the bottom is the EX gauge. That one, when you hit your opponents, it fills up. And then when you build it up, you can do like a super move, which they call it critical arts. So that's kind of a traditional kind of like, you know, super fireball or Shoryuken and stuff like that. And then the V gauge is when your opponent hits you, it fills up. And that one, it does some stuff that's a little bit new. So the V gauge is used in a couple different ways. So there's 3 different V things. There's a V skill, which actually doesn't use the V gauge. And the V skill is you press the medium punch and the medium kick button at the same time, and your character does like a character-specific maneuver. So for Ryu, it's a parry. He's the only character in the game with a parry, like in Street Fighter 3. But he it doesn't use up any of his gauge either. So then every character will have a different one of those. Then there's a V trigger, which does use your meter, and that one you use the hard punch and kick at the same time. And it kind of puts you in a different state. Like, it's different for each character. Some characters get stronger for a certain period of time. Some get faster. It usually kind of plays into their personalities.
Sure.
That kind of thing. So then there's also a V reversal, which also uses the meter, but less of it. And that is done to do like a counter attack on your opponent. So like while you're guarding, you press forward, and all 3 punches, all 3 kicks together, and it does kind of a counter attack. So those are the main kind of mechanics going on. There's obviously more complex stuff as you kind of get into the strategy of it all, but I think one of the main themes that they've kind of, like Capcom's taken a little bit of flack for, and they, they kind of like when we were doing an interview with them, they kind of like defended it before I even brought it up. It's just kind of the idea of whether the game is too simple, in that there are a lot of things that you do that require like 2 button presses. Like to throw an enemy is is low punch and low kick together.
Sure.
To recover, it's pressing any 2 buttons at the right time. To do obviously the V trigger or the V skill is to press 2 buttons at the same time. So it's the inputs are very simple. They say it's more for strategy and being accessible and less about kind of complexity. So that's certainly the approach they're going, is a little bit more straightforward. So yeah, here we see Nash and Bison, the other 2 characters that we were playing.
Bison certainly is more brawler type, slower, stronger, at least in this version.
They kind of turned a lot of their characters that way as the games went on.
Certainly.
But yeah,
that's its critical art right here.
Yes.
I don't know what this is called, but it's amazing. He kind of he teleports and drills into it.
So yeah, here we're still in China. You'll see London coming up soon. So what else we got here? We have
Bison with a decisive victory here.
He's very proud.
Yeah, he really does. And these are, this is not us playing, I should preface this. This is actually two people on the product team at Capcom who actually kind of know what they're doing. We played the game, and Matt is much better than I am at this. I am a Street Fighter newbie.
I'm still not very good, but I kept saying I was the second worst person in the room.
I was definitely the worst, so this is why we had some folks who were, you know, skilled at the game actually sort of play for us and show off a lot of the
But you
moves
did
and
love
strategy.
pointing out the backgrounds.
I
like
did.
the guy who's trying to clap and throw up at the same time.
Yeah, that guy in the sort of in the right side of the screen there. And of course I love all the flourishes like Nash's hair and the, you know, the glasses. The drama of these games is always a lot of fun, I think. So here we are in the London stage, brand new stage. This was probably my favorite part of the whole demo, just for how much character was kind of going on in the background of this stage. I mean, of course, somebody who's new to Street Fighter, I'm more of a spectator, so I'm always looking at sort of the little flourishes and the little things kind of going on. We got the punks on the left side, there's an old man in the middle kind of dancing with his cane, and then we have a bunch of bobbies with a marching band, I think, on the right, so there's a lot going on.
But one of them's like a conductor.
Yeah, and the conductor, there's a guy with a tuba, there's a guy with drums. This is really very exciting, with a police box, naturally, you know. It's really good stuff.
Not stereotypical at all.
No, not whatsoever right here.
Yeah, and we saw in the China stage there was a bus that passed by with Fei Long written on it. Like there are always little touches like in every Street Fighter game. Nothing particularly different here, although I like, in case you weren't sure it was London, there are flags strategically placed just to remind you where you are.
UK flags and a pub somehow also inside the train station on the far left. So, like I said, I'm new to the series. I was kind of a Mortal Kombat kid growing up and haven't played a whole lot of fighting games. So playing this was kind of a revelation for me. I was like, oh, this is a modern 2D fighting game. I haven't played these in a long time. But you've certainly played many more of these games and have a history with this. Did it feel
somewhat
good to play?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the general, like, you know, basic like, physics, if you want to call them that, or animation and that kind of thing, it's very much Street Fighter play. We do assure you it feels like you're moving the same number of pixels up and that kind of thing. I mean, I'm sure there are tiny little changes, but playing it for half an hour and not being, like, crazy hardcore, I couldn't really point those out. So I think on the surface, it is very much like Street Fighter 4 was, in that they're trying to appeal to a very wide audience, and so it's carrying over a lot of the stuff they did in that game. It's kind of like the traditional thing where a game will have, like, you know, 20% new and 80% kind of old. Whatever like marketing equation they use to appeal to most people, but not feel like exactly the same. I mean, it does feel, I think, like a more of a sequel and less of like a, you know, expansion, that kind of thing. But it's not like a whole new game. You're gonna play it because you like Street Fighter games. I don't know if it's gonna necessarily have as wide of appeal as Street Fighter 4 did, just because it was like the first new one in a long time. Whereas this is kind of like, it's a little different, and it's fun and it looks great and everything. But it's not like a revolution again. You know, it's kind of like
an improvement on the formula. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Awesome. Well, this has been Street Fighter 5, and we'll see this hopefully sometime next year.